Hi, peeps. You're listening to She's My Cherry Pie, the baking podcast from the Cherry Bomb Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jessie Sheehan. I'm a baker, recipe developer, and author of 4 baking books, including Salty, Cheesy, Herby, Crispy, Snackable Bakes. On each episode, I hang out with the sweetest bakers around and take a deep dive into their signature bakes. Today, we're airing a special midweek episode for you with a very special guest, Vaughn Vreeland. Vaughn is a writer, recipe creator, and video host for New York Times Cooking. You probably saw that it's officially Cookie Week at the Times, the annual holiday event beloved by home bakers. Vaughn and his team just dropped 7 new holiday cookie recipes, and Vaughn joins me to talk about leading the project this year. He dishes through the editorial process for selecting the cookies and how he came up with his contribution, the popcorn bucket cookies. Yum. Vaughn is also the co-author of the new book Cookies, the best recipes for the perfect anytime treat. The book features 100 time-tested recipes and expert guidance from trusted New York Times cooking contributors, including a few She's My Cherry Pie guests, Melissa Clark, Dory Greenspan, Yewande Komolafe, Samantha Senavaratna, and of course, Vaughn. In this episode, Vaughn and I talk chewy, crispy, cakey, chocolatey, and fruity, buttery goodness in every form. Plus, he dives into a few of his favorites from the book and walks me through the recipe for his chewy brownie cookies, a recipe he labored over for months until he got it just right. And by right, you should picture a cookie for brownie lovers of middle and edge pieces. Oh, and did I mention he sprinkles the flaky sea salt onto this cookie mid-bake so it sticks but does not melt? Genius tip. I loved chatting with Vaughn about hanging out with his grandmother Nanny over homemade cookies and dip milk. Yup, dip milk is a thing. And baking Thanksgiving pies with her in August to be stored in her chest freezer, no less. And about 7-year-old Vaughn's Saturday morning baking sessions that resulted in monstrosities that vaguely resembled something he'd seen on Food Network the night before. So much good stuff in this episode, so stay tuned for our convo. You can find today's recipe at cherrybomb.substack.com. Peeps, if you want more Vaughn in your life, join our Bomb Squad member meeting today, December 2nd. We're hosting a virtual cookie swap at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom with 3 fantastic cookbook authors and cookie authorities, Kat Liu, Sarah Kiefer, and Vaughn Vreeland. Our Bomb Squad host, Donna Yen, will talk to them about their holiday bakes, cookie trends, and all the tips and tricks we can squeeze in. Cherry Bomb's monthly virtual meetings are open to official Bomb Squad members and paid Substack subscribers. If that's you, check your email for the registration link. If you'd like to join us, there's still time to become a subscriber at cherrybomb.substack.com. And don't worry if you can't make it to the meeting. We'll share the recording with members afterward. Today's episode is presented by Diamond of California Nuts, the century-old nut brand you know and love. As we're gearing up for holiday baking season, my favorite season, make sure you're stocked up on all the baking nuts you'll need, and with Diamond, you know you're getting guaranteed fresh quality. You can really taste the difference. Diamond has us covered with all the nuts, whole, chopped, sliced, and even in shell too, if you're ever in the mood to crack some walnuts. Hey, maybe you have a nutcracker. I'll go with the chopped walnuts, which I put in my crazy delicious chocolate marshmallow walnut fudge. The pecans are a must in my chocolate bourbon pecan pie, and I also love using them to make candied nuts for holiday gifting. That's when I want to be using the best ingredients I can find. So when you're at the grocery store, look for the nuts in the white bag with the red diamond logo in the baking aisle. That's your sign you're getting premium quality nuts that bakers have trusted for generations. Visit diamondnuts.com to find a store nearest you and to explore their fan-favorite recipes like walnut butter cookies. Yum! Happy baking! Let's chat with today's guest. Vaughn! So excited to have you on She's My Cherry Pie and to talk chewy brownie cookies with you and so much more.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Can I just say, I feel like every time I see you, which is usually at like a book launch or something, I'm like gravitating. I'm like, I just need to be in your like orbit.
Aww.
And it's so fun to actually get some one-on-one time with you.
I'm so excited. So you have been baking, since you were like 7 years old, on Saturday mornings, you often surprised your mom with one of your bakes. Can you tell us about said bakes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, usually they were from a box. I grew up, loving Ina and loving Martha, but I also really loved Sandra Lee. And I still do. Like, I think she's an icon. I loved that just kind of like put lipstick on a pig kind of vibe where you just like, take a box mix and add some sour cream to it. And then you have like this whole new thing that like doesn't really taste that much different. But it is. I always grew up with art as like very central to who I was. I loved painting. I loved drawing. So this was just another extension of that because I would always add like lots of food coloring to it and I would love decorating it. So I think cakes were kind of the first love there. And then once I got more comfortable with that, I think I moved into the homemade cookie recipe. The Nestlé Toulouse type thing.
Oh, Nestlé. I love her so.
Yeah. Very simple, but then I think that also just ignited this, oh my gosh, like look at the transformation that happens before my eyes. I love taking these raw ingredients and like making something very beautiful out of them.
Were these bakes that you were doing for your mom or family on these Saturday mornings, were those sort of your first memories of baking, or did you have even earlier ones?
I think that those would be my first ones where I was able to fly on my own.
Yes.
I was given a lot of agency and freedom, which was really nice, and I was encouraged to not be afraid to make mistakes in the kitchen.
Which is great.
I think probably the earliest memories I have baking would be like at the holidays with my grandma and nanny. Yep. We would be making, those haystacks, which is like the butterscotch chips and the
cornflakes, or like the
like chow mein noodles.
Yes, the chow mein noodles.
We would use the chow mein noodles, and I would be like, this is so fun. So things like that. We did a lot of candy.
Yep.
We did a lot of candy. And then also, obviously, like cookies and things like that. One of the first things I ever made with her, I remember, was peach ice cream. One of her brothers lived in Georgia. It would always bring up peaches. I think probably in like August every year, like the really ripe Georgia peaches. And she would blanch them, slice them, freeze them, and then we would make peach ice cream throughout the entire year.
Peach ice cream is like one of my favorite.
Oh, same.
So good.
Same.
We really cannot talk about little Vaughn, or maybe any aged Vaughn, without talking about your grandmother, a.k.a. Nanny. Yeah. She was this really strong matriarch, huge influence, to the point about being artistic, etc., really encouraged your imagination. I love this so much. Can you tell us about homemade cookies and dip milk that you ate with her? And I love that expression, dip milk, so much. Like, what would that cookie have been? Or maybe there were several.
Oh, I mean, it spanned from Oreos to red velvet cookies that she would make. I
like with cream
really
cheese
loved
situation?
It was like a white chocolate chip, red velvet type situation. It was so good. And I remember writing about it one time where I remember it was like a means for us to like share in that 3 o'clock glass of Chardonnay and General Hospital. And like that was like her daily ritual. And I felt when I was at her house, I needed my daily ritual. Yeah. So it was always centered around like a cookie and dip milk.
I love
and
that.
I always called it that. And
dip
I still
milk.
Do call it that today, even though
you have to write about dip milk.
I do.
Have
need
you
to
written?
No,
oh my
I
God.
need to write about dip milk.
You need to write
though.
about dip milk. Dip milk is amazing.
I think it could be.
Yeah.
We could.
Yeah.
You and I could market it.
Can we do dip
I think
milk?
that would be fun.
Tell us about getting ready for Thanksgiving in August with Nanny.
Oh, my God. I remember we were going to a play of some sort at the Durham Performing Arts Center. My grandma's from Durham. And we went back to her house after to drop her off. And we had like her leftovers from dinner. We see all of these casseroles in the refrigerator. And it was August. It like legitimately was August. And my mom goes like, Mama, what are these? And she's like, oh, honey, they're for Thanksgiving. And we were like, what? Like, but Nanny, it's August. And she thankfully mentally always all there.
Yeah.
So like she was sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
She just decided like, hey, I'm tired of stressing out the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I'm going to start making this stuff and freezing it and then just baking it off because so many – I think that this is a very Southern thing, but it's also a product of her time too, like casseroles.
Yes.
So many casseroles.
Oh, I love a casserole.
I love a casserole too. And so they're so easy to make and freeze and then bake off. That meant more time for her on the day of Thanksgiving to like – tend to other people.
Yep.
She was like the ultimate caregiver, the ultimate matriarch, the ultimate host, but also more time for her to drink Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And so,
At 11.
And so that's why I like, even to this day now, I'm like, okay, well, what can I do a few days before Thanksgiving and freeze and then just...
I don't want to scare you, but I literally am nanny because I'm like obsessed with my freezer. My husband is just like, what is that? I'm like, oh, in a month we're having so-and-so over for dinner. That's what we're going to... He's just like, you're an insane person. I'm like, it makes me feel better.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
I love it so much. And, you know, sometimes when you freeze something and then reheat it, it's better.
100%.
You know, like there are certain recipes where that just is true.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And I think that if you've got the space, she had like 4 freezers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, her house was the size of my apartment basically, which is tiny.
Yeah.
But like they made space outside for chest freezers and stuff because she was always hosting people. I mean, that's how she showed love. And I think that that's ultimately what instilled in me this love of cooking and especially baking because I feel like baking is so shareable.
Yes,
you know?
Totally. I think it is very fair to say that your family was into food. Like that was big. And your mom and your grandmother, both great cooks and bakers.
Fantastic.
But for you, was it just baking? Were you an equal opportunity food peep?
I was equal opportunity. I think
you loved
that
you
baking,
loved cooking as much as baking.
Yes. You know, I think that baking allowed me to really tap into that artistic side. But I think that cooking food allowed me to experience changes in real time.
Yeah.
Like adding more. I used to make macaroni and cheese a lot.
Yeah.
And I was one of those.
From scratch?
Yes, actually.
Because I also love the box.
I love a box. I love a box too. I will do like a box and add kale and rotisserie chicken to it and act like I have a complete meal and like, you know, love it.
Yep.
But I would make it homemade and I would like try my hand at making a bechamel. And the more I learned about it, the more I was able to say like, okay, I got to take my time. I have to add my milk slower. I would watch these people on, you know, especially Food Network and Emerald and things like that, making these things. And I was just so intrigued with it.
Yeah.
And I was also such a ham and kind of in my own little world that I was also acting like I had my own cooking show, which I thought was such a unique experience. And then the more I meet people in food media, especially like gays in food media, we were all like that.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I can totally relate to that.
I would always say, isn't that fabulous? Like just like that complete like, oh, darling, isn't that fabulous?
I love that so much. We'll be right back. If you're looking for some excellent and unique holiday gifts, Cherry Bomb has a few deals underway. From now until the end of the year, you can get 20% off Jubilee tickets when you buy 2 or more. Jubilee is our annual conference happening on Saturday, April 25th in New York City. This would be a great gift for foodie friends, colleagues, loved ones, and especially for yourself. The discount will automatically be applied when you add 2 or more Jubilee tickets to your cart. Head to cherrybomb.com to shop and learn more. Also, today is Giving Tuesday, and Cherry Bomb is thrilled to support Cake for Kids, an amazing organization that helps provide custom birthday and graduation cakes to youth who might otherwise go without. This Giving Tuesday, 10% of all purchases made on cherrybomb.com will go to Cake for Kids. And that's not all. Cherry Bomb's new holiday issue, The Cake Issue, is here, and a portion of the net proceeds will also benefit Cake for Kids. The issue features 3 incredible self-taught cake artists on the covers: Lucy Franck de Ferrière of From Lucy, Amy France, a.k.a. Young Kombucha 420, and Amy Yip of Yip Studio. The pages are packed with sweet stories, beautiful recipes, and gorgeous photography, all on thick, lush paper. To snag the mag, head to cherrybomb.com. And if you'd like to volunteer or learn more about Cake for Kids, check out cakeforkids.org. That's cake 4, as in the number 4, kids.org. Now back to our guest. I know Food Network had a special place in your heart. Other things, or was that sort of the only game in town when you were little?
Oh,
or
I mean,
younger?
everything. I loved, obviously, my Disney Channel
Yep.
and my Nickelodeon
Yep.
and things like that. But Food Network also was something that I shared in with my mom a lot.
Yeah.
Like, she still to this day watches it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it made me feel, when you're a kid, you're just so ready to grow up.
Yeah.
It helped me feel grown up, like
Yep.
watching Jada and
Yep.
like everybody after school.
I want to talk about your sort of introduction to food professionally. You got into food and cooking and also video during this post-college stint teaching English in Thailand. It inspired your move to New York to pursue food, kind of, I think, through a media lens. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Can you tell us, I think it was a promotional video that you made?
Yes. So I applied for this program in Thailand teaching English. And when I was over there, I ended up saying like, hey, I can also, like, I studied film in college. I love filming and editing my own videos. And, it was like 2015. It was when I think there was a big cultural shift too between like that classic production where you have like a team of 10 producers and then you have like the videographers and the editors to like condensing that down into one person, right? Like social media was taking off in video as well. So all these people were basically at the behest of like these producer, editor, single stack producers is what we call them. And so I was like, hey, I would love to film around the country. And I found myself really gravitating toward the food, the markets. That was my way of actually engaging the most with the culture was through food. And I'm also a big fan of languages. I have a very linguistic brain. I was also a French major in college. So when I was over there, that's how I would retain the language, would be through the food. And obviously there are a lot of food phrases, but even at the markets, that's when you like kind of get into more conversation with people. It really helped me engage and connect with folks while I was there. And I absolutely love Thailand. Like I love it. And the people are fantastic and the food is amazing. I ended up doing this kind of promotional video while I was there. And when I came back, I was like, that was so fun. Like I really love this docu-style food thing. And it was the same time when I got back, Chef's Table came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is what I want to do. I think that this is gorgeous. I want to be in this world. And I had worked at a bakery in North Carolina, mainly doing front of house stuff.
Was it called
honestly.
like Macaron Madness?
It was called. That was my blog that I had.
What was the place called?
It was called Lucette Grace. Was the place I worked. But that is so. I am both. I'm at once so impressed and so scared that you found my vlog spot from.
Ron, you don't even know.
I had Macron memoirs from when I was abroad in France, and then I had this one that was such a stupid pun, but can't be tied down when I was in Thailand.
Honey.
I know. Yeah, like, please take pity on me. It was, but I wrote a lot about, and the French culture obviously has such a big influence on me too, and I worked at this bakery that was largely French influenced in downtown Raleigh. I was like, I just love being in this world. I love front of house. I love back of house. I love filming it. And so I just moved up to New York, didn't have a job, and kind of just hit the pavement when I got up here.
You ended up at BuzzFeed Tasty. Incredible. Yeah. I love that you say you weren't formally trained, like your education was literally behind the camera, learning about food from watching people from there. Tell us about working at BuzzFeed. What year would this have been?
2017.
So was this Hands and Pans era?
Yeah, it was total Hands and Pans era.
Wow.
So I got in I think we're looking at the bell curve for like right at the other edge of the crest. So it's like still extremely popular.
Yep.
Like my first video on Facebook had 35 million views or something crazy like that.
Wow.
And I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And I think it also maybe set me up for a little bit of failure later on down in my career when I didn't get 35 million views on a video. But still, it was really cool being in that world because I actually was living life as that full stack producer that I was talking about. We were not only filming and editing our own videos, but we were also the hands working the pans and making the recipes, which a lot of people didn't realize. These 22 to 26-year-olds were like coming up with recipes and then, which was really fun. And then I think, if I'm honest, once we realized that folks were actually making the recipes, we're like, we got to kind of step the game up a little bit and hire a full culinary team. And they did. And that's what also helped me, kind of be a little bit more mindful and take a little bit more time. But when we started, we had to make 2 to 3 of those a week. We were actively testing this recipe basically as we were filming it.
Yep.
And, if there was a big change that needed to happen, well, I'm not going to hit quota. So I don't know what to do.
Yep.
And it was a little bit of a tricky dance while we were there.
Your next job was New York Times Cooking.
Yes.
Can you tell us, what's your job at New York Times Cooking? I feel like you might wear 3 hats.
Okay, well, so this is a good kind of transition foray into this. I was a supervising producer.
Right.
And, a lot of folks might not know this. A lot of folks didn't even know that I was on the production team.
Yeah.
But if people did know that, they might not know that actually a couple months ago, I transitioned to just being a full-time writer and recipe developer.
That's what I have: writer, recipe creator,
and
video host.
Yeah. So my title is cooking writer, call it what you will, columnist, host, whatever.
Yep.
Basically, I am writing a newsletter every week, and I am developing a certain number of recipes every month, and I'm hosting a video series.
Yep.
We're still in the beginning of phases of figuring out what it looks like for me specifically, but I am now a full-time
that's what
writer.
I thought. I had all these different labels, and I was like, actually, I think this might be the most
What does this
recent.
man do?
Yeah, who is he? Why is he even coming in here? So this year, you are producing the fantastic New York Times Cooking Cookie Week. What does that mean to produce it?
This was actually the first recipe that I ever developed for the New York
the
Times.
eggnog
was the eggnog
snickerdoodle.
snickerdoodle. And that was based off of a family recipe, which was so fun to be able to do that. As somebody who's been at the helm of Cookie Week since the beginning, even though my role has changed, I always want to stay integral to the projects that I have helped build, And so producing Cookie Week really does mean sitting in a room with the recipe team and the video team and deciding hey, this year, is there a theme we want to go with? Who are the folks that we want to work with? And, we get all the pitches. We look at them all together. We're in Photoshop trying to mock up faux cookie boxes with okay, so if we go with her shortbread and his chewy ginger cookie, what do they look like together, and how do we involve more? We need more shapes, we need more color, we need more diversity of ingredients. And so that is kind of, we're in a room for an hour at a time over the course of a month. And
what month are we? How early are you starting?
This is May.
Okay.
This is May. So we ask for pitches in June.
Okay.
And then I was developing my cookie in July. We filmed Cookie Week at the end of August.
Yep.
So it's about a 2-3 month process.
Yep.
But it is so fun. It's very rewarding. And when we get those cookie tins that have all 7 of them in there, it really, sometimes I think that I'm putting on airs a little bit, but it really does choke me up a little bit because there's a lot of work that's gone into it, not only that year, but over the last 6 years that we've done it.
Before we jump into your book, which I'm very excited to talk about, I just wanted to go through the cookies. First, can you tell us about Claire Safitz's, who was a guest on the pod a couple of times, about her strawberry almond mortadella cookie?
Jessie, I know it's a podcast, so it's not a visual medium, but I wish I could I'm going to show you after this this photo of Claire's cookie on top of a huge hunk of mortadella. And it is
my God.
a little trippy.
Okay.
Because you're whoa, that looks like cured meat. And so we ended up making a few different versions of it where she added a little bit more freeze-dried strawberry powder to it.
So it would be a little brighter.
A little
brighter.
brighter.
Quite so mortadella.
Yeah, it was a pale pink at one point.
Yeah.
It would be a shortbread. It's a slice and bake, basically. It is chewier than a shortbread because she uses almond paste in it, which is such a lovely texture. When you kind of go in there, you think you're going to get this kind of buttery, crumbly shortbread, and you kind of do, but then it also has this little bit of chew. The color comes from freeze-dried strawberries, and she uses macadamia nuts and pistachios like they would do an actual mortadella of the pistachios. She rolls into log slices and bakes them.
Can I just say that mortadella is my favorite?
Mine too.
My literal favorite thing. Tell me about Dan Grossi Pelosi's Dark and Stormy.
Oh my gosh, this is maybe one. I mean, it's hard to pick favorites, but I am a Chewy cookie fanatic, right? So I love Chewy cookies. His is this chewy ginger cookie that he puts chopped crystallized ginger in. It's beautifully infused with rum, and then it has this lime rum glaze on top. And so it's like boozy but doesn't take it too far. Like it's a really lovely balance. Ginger cookies can sometimes be a bit saccharine. They can be a bit cloying, and that lime glaze cuts that sweetness really, really well. And that with the ginger is like perfect.
Tell me about my other pal, Eric Kim's mint chocolate chip bark, which I have to say, Baskin-Robbins mint chocolate chip ice cream is literally my favorite ice cream.
That is like, I think, what they literally based it off of, Jessie. I'm not kidding. So I guess to preface to this year's kind of theme in the background, I don't know if we're calling it an official theme, but it was like, but make it a cookie. So it was like, take some of your favorite things and make it a cookie. So Eric's was kind of based off of this like Baskin-Robbins mint chocolate chip ice cream. And he did this really cool cookie that when I had it, I was like, oh, it reminds me of something. It's almost like if you had like a pignoli cookie without the almond, but it's got that chew to it. It's like an egg white based cookie and then covered in a white chocolate, like a minty white chocolate with the chocolate chips on top. He cuts it like a peppermint bark, but it's got this cool little, almost like macaron like cookie down at the bottom that adds this extra layer of texture that's super
But
delicious.
there's no green from that Baskin-Robbins.
So this year we actually were allowed to use food coloring, which is good. Yeah. So it really does look like it. And when you see it, you're instantly brought to that mint chocolate chip.
I love this, but make it a cookie. Does that mean that Claire loves mortadella?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Now thinking about that, I'm like thinking back to the other pitches that folks had. I'm like, oh, wait, that must mean that they like XYZ.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Tell us about Melissa's Vietnamese coffee brownies.
Oh, Vietnamese, this one was so good. And I love that Melissa always plays with form, right? Melissa's written 9 million cookbooks. And so at this point, she's earned the right to be like, well, you wanted a cookie, I'm going to give you a brownie.
Yeah, exactly.
But to me, they go hand in hand, and I would put them in the category of cookie. But they are a really dark chocolate, dense type brownie that obviously has those lovely, lovely coffee notes. And when you add coffee to a chocolate dessert, it like kind of amps up chocolate flavor. This, you can actually like taste the coffee, right? Like, and then it's got these swirls of sweetened condensed milk throughout it, like a Vietnamese iced coffee, and they're really good.
So good. Sue's Payday cookie.
Oh my goodness. So this was a cookie that I got to try when it was in development.
Yeah.
And me and Sam Senavaratna were with Sue that night that we went out to dinner, and we were like, it's perfect, Sue.
Yeah.
Like it's so wonderful. It looks like a payday. I mean, it's in the shape of a traditional circular cookie, but looks like a payday. And it is just this like gorgeously soft. It's like a peanut version of a pignoli cookie, honestly. It's rolled in those toasted peanuts with like flaky salt on top.
And then finally, my beloved Sam, tell me about her coconut cake cookies.
Oh, these are so good. I tried these and I was like, this is such a wonderful cookie because it tastes of fresh coconut. It's not that fake desiccated coconut. It is covered in a bright pink coconut because, it's supposed to hearken those Hostess snowballs, which I honestly love.
Me too.
But the cookie itself is chewy, almost shortbready in a way as well. Coconut cookie that is so fresh tasting. And I actually don't know if the recipe calls for it, but I think she uses coconut flour. There's something in there that just makes it taste so fresh, and it's almost like what you wish that Hostess snack would taste like because I've had one recently, like for research purposes, of course. And I was like, this doesn't taste as good as it used to taste like after baseball practice growing up, but it's still good.
Tell us about your popcorn bucket cookies.
So this was based off of Family Movie Night, which is one of my favorite things during the holidays. I love, turning on either something like Die Hard that my dad really wants to watch that we consider a Christmas movie, or The Sound of Music, or like, Christmas
Home Alone.
Vacation. Home Alone. Home Alone. My boyfriend's name is Kevin, so we can't watch Home Alone because he hates when they go Kevin because he had to grow up his entire life
being
with people
teased.
saying that. But a lot of our best memories are kind of centered around popping on a movie, even if we've seen it a bajillion times, and then like maybe playing Monopoly Deal or Code Names and just having like a nice little family movie night. So I decided that it would be so fun to just throw in a whole random slew of candy into this cookie. So it's a pretty simple base. I use some chopped up Heath toffee almost as like a flavoring element, and it melts really nicely in the cookie itself. And then it just has whatever your favorite movie theater candy is in there. I used on set when we filmed it, I used peanut M&Ms, Butterfinger, Sour Patch Kids, Raisinets, the dark chocolate Raisinets, which are so good, and Kit Kat. I think there were Whoppers in there. It was just like it's so fun to just play with candy.
Yes.
And I think that this was one of those cookies that for me, developing Cookie Week cookies in the summertime, you can feel a little bit burnt out because you're also working on Thanksgiving stuff and maybe some other big fall baking projects at the same time. And you're like, but this really reignited the fun in baking for me again, which was so necessary at the time. And I was able to tinker with it a little bit more once I got just the movie theater candy. And I was like, well, I want a popcorn element to it. Yeah. So I brush it with butter and roll it in freshly popped popcorn, and then it bakes. And it's just, it looks fun. It just looks fun, and I love them.
And also, that's my favorite part of a movie. It's the buttered popcorn
1000%.
And maybe some M&Ms. I kind of like the
mixture.
I love M&M. Or like even a peanut M&M, so you have like salty sweet, then you have your popcorn.
You know, putting the Sour Patch Kids in there sounds diabolical.
Yeah.
But that hit of that citric acid or whatever they roll the Sour Patch Kid in with the saltiness of the popcorn then maybe the sweetness from like a Raisinette.
I can't wait.
It's Flavortown USA.
Oh my God. Hello.
It's so good.
Hello.
It's so good.
All right. Now I cannot wait to talk about the book. So your first love is cookies. The first thing you ever developed for New York Times Cooking was your eggnog snickerdoodles. So it makes absolute sense that your first book is cookies. But tell us about the book. You and I were talking before we started recording about how much I love the design. For those who have not opened the book and looked at it and lived with it like I have, tell us what we'd find.
I'm very thankful because I got input into the design of this book. I told them, I was like, hey, I want the experience of opening this book to mimic the experience of baking and eating a cookie. To me, cookies are just as fun to make as they are to eat. I mean, maybe eating them is a little bit more fun, but like, you know, I think that there's so much joy in that experience and the joy that you feel in being able to share it with other people. And that is why when we're having the design conversation, I think that making it bright, making it colorful, almost subverting people's expectations of what they might think a New York Times cookbook would look like or has looked like in the past. It was really fun to kind of diverge a little bit and be able to have these like chapter openers that are like brat green, you know? And so to me, that was just like super important that you got as much out of reading it and experiencing it as you would like baking the actual cookies.
It's so colorful. Obviously, there are a lot of cookie books. Was there talk about how, I mean, it can stand out because it's New York Times Cooking and it's Vaughn and both entities so special. But was there talk about how will ours be different? How will this stand out and not be like, oh, I have a cookie book already?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that some of my favorite cookbooks are cookie books. Like my pal Jessie over at BA has like the most fantastic, was
modern
beautiful,
cookies. Incredible.
Like so good. And I think that there definitely was talk of how we make this feel different because you don't want to be just another, you know, I think in food media, we are facing, you know, especially with how social media is going too, like a little bit of a saturation problem in some areas. So it's like, okay, well, what's going to set us apart? Give the people what they want, but also what they don't know they want yet. Yep. And so I think that there was a really lovely mix in there of like your classics, your 30-minute bakes, but then also your projects too. Yep. And I think that it is a book that really does speak to everyone. And it's not just aspirational baking. There is a lot of like really application based, like, oh, here is a no-bake chocolate peanut butter cookie that will take me 5 minutes to make, you know? And I think that was also important for me too, as someone who started baking from those Nestlé Toulaos like recipes. That was a gateway, right? I think watching Sandra Lee was a gateway.
Yeah.
And though some people may turn their nose up at that, I know that I can never, because that is where I got my start, my love of doing this. Yeah. And so if I can have recipes that speak to different types of bakers out there, that might be, hey, this is for an 8-year-old little boy in North Carolina who like really wants to start baking, but it also could be for a 32-year-old man in New York City who is just tired but really needs something chocolate.
I get it.
You know, like
we're talking about the Chewy brownie cookies, and you have said that this doesn't happen very frequently, but you had to labor on this cookie for months.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of the few. What were you trying to accomplish that made it so tricky?
So I wanted to make them easy. And for some reason, you know, every time I would make them, they would look a little bit different. I knew that this recipe was going to be very special, and I wanted it to be foolproof for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes, as you know, like sometimes the simplest thing, the answer is right in front of my face. But why is it so hard to figure it out? You know, I think for me, writing a 100-word intro to something is way harder than writing a 5,000-word essay. I don't know why, but it was important to me that these kind of achieve everything that I set out for them. And I would need to take a break from them too, which I think is why it also took me so long. It's like, listen, we need a break, brownie cookies, but would return to them with fresh eyes, which I think is also always helpful. Important as a recipe developer. If you have the time to do it, return to it with fresh eyes and see like, hey, was I actually just laboring over this point needlessly, or was this actually something that I could go ahead and change? So yeah, I wanted them to be easy. They are a cookie that even if you don't have everything meased out, I think you could have them from your flowers in your pantry to the cookies in your mouth in about 45 minutes.
Which is great.
Yeah.
You say this is a cookie for brownie lovers. Corner brownie people are going to be happy. Your middle brownie people are going to be happy. I love this textural journey from soft and velvety middles to chewy edges. The perfect union of America's most popular desserts, brownies and cookies. The recipe is relatively simple, but also you say in the head note, the only time-intensive step in the recipe is the beating the eggs and the sugar. You can't skip it, but that's it. If you can get through that, you're good. We're going to talk about this, but you have us bang the sheet on the counter midway through the bake, because that's going to help us with creating fudgy cookies and also craggly topped.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into that when we talk about the recipe, but I just wanted to flag that because it's something you flag in the head note. So we're going to heat our oven to 350 degrees, and we're going to line, you say, I'm sure a lot of this is like New York Times cooking rules and regulations for how you write recipes, but I'm just going to ask you about it anyway. It says line 2 large baking sheets. When the New York Times says large, do they mean 18 by 13? Do they mean standard?
Like a half sheet.
Yep.
But it's funny because my oven in my apartment is a half oven.
Right.
I can only bake on quarter sheet trays, and I got into a little bit of trouble with the Cookie Week cookie because I was like, well, I'm baking 4 or 6 sometimes on my quarter sheet. So like double it for the half sheet, right? But like, no.
Did they spread too much?
They spread too much, And so I sometimes get in trouble with that kind of stuff.
It's so
like,
hard.
Like, I don't have a big oven to bake these things in. But yeah, so when we say large
you
rimmed
guys mean
baking
18 by
sheet,
13 or standard size. We're going to line it with parchment paper, and we're going to put some semi-sweet, or you can use bittersweet. So 2 questions. First of all, is there a brand you love? And second of all, what would Vaughn use? Would you use semi-sweet or would you use bittersweet?
I would use bittersweet. When I want chocolate, I want chocolate.
Yep.
You know, I think I've recently fallen back in love with milk chocolate, but there's like a whole time and place type of thing there with me. I really like the Guitar 2-ounce bars that they sell in those like 6-ounce boxes.
Yep.
And the red ones specifically are the ones that I buy.
I've also bought, I think it's the yellow or the semi-sweet.
Yes.
Yeah, but I have those too.
Yeah. So I like those because they're also, it's really nice that they're 2 ounces. So if you're baking something that calls for 5 ounces of chocolate, you can just very easily break it up.
So we're putting some bittersweet chocolate if we're Vaughn, if we're channeling Vaughn, in some cocoa powder. So we're going to mix this all together with some espresso powder, which is going to bloom our chocolate flavor. It'll be stronger. Is there a brand?
King Arthur espresso powder is the one that I have because usually if I'm ordering a bigger batch, I'll go with that if I'm testing. I've done this with ground espresso as well.
Okay.
So this is one of those things that I learned kind of the hard way in writing a recipe for another cookie that I did that called for like an espresso powder versus ground espresso. There is a difference in the strength of those. This is calling for the espresso powder that you could get from, the baking aisle.
The little kind of jars.
Yeah, the little jars, but you can also use ground espresso. It might not come through as much, but you can also use the ground espresso.
And we're going to put that in a small heat-proof bowl or a glass measuring cup. Do you have bowls you love to work with? Do you like metal bowls? Do you like glass?
I use my metal bowls a lot. When we're filming, we always use glass bowls because you can see through it, obviously. I think that I use my glass Pyrex measuring cup for way too many things. I use that as a mixing bowl.
Oh, I have a 4-cup, a 2-cup, a 1-cup. I'm a little obsessed.
Oh, I love them. And
Me too.
they're microwave safe, they're heat safe. That is what I would do this in.
Totally. So now we're going to melt unsalted butter. And I wondered if there was a butter that you love.
No, and this one is one of those things also when I'm working on any recipe, especially for the times, I will use Kerrygold in one of them, and then I will use like a Land O'Lakes in another, just to make sure that fat content isn't messing up the recipe at all. This one is fine.
So we're going to melt unsalted butter in a skillet or a saucepan. Which do you use?
I have a little 2-quart saucier that I use all the time. I love it, and it is perfect because of the rounded edges. It is perfect for browning butter. It's perfect for melting butter. I love it.
Then we're going to do that over medium-low heat until the butter is bubbling but not browned, about 3 minutes. So I read an instruction like this, and I immediately go to my microwave. How do you feel about that? Would you do that at home?
I would. Okay. Yeah, I would do it.
Because if we have our glass Pyrex, then we can put it in the microwave.
Well, I think yes. And for this, I've done it a couple different ways. This cookie, I will say also, is based off of a brownie recipe that I worked on for a very long time as well at BuzzFeed.
Okay.
And it was our Brownie 101. And I worked with this wonderful woman, Susan Vu, who now lives out in LA. She's a fantastic recipe developer. Tried brown butter. We didn't find that it made that big of a difference. We tried, melting it all together in the saucepan. We've tried the microwave. A lot of these methods do work. It's about what you prefer. I think actually for this cookie, though, I do use my little saucier because then I can just put my chopped chocolate and espresso powder in there
to the saucier and
whisk it. But I've done it to where I heat the butter in the microwave and then just pour it over the chopped chocolate, and the residual heat will melt.
Yeah. I think I would put it in. I would put the butter in my large Pyrex, and then I would add the espresso powder. I would add everything else on top of that.
And bloom the espresso and the cocoa powder and then
all together.
Yeah.
So interesting. So we're going to pour butter over our chocolate mixture, and we're not going to stir. We're going to let the mixture sit so the residual heat can melt the chocolate thoroughly. So did you find in testing that if you stirred it right away, it cooled down so quickly that the chocolate was still a bit chunky?
I found that it would either do that or the chocolate would even seize. I felt like it needed that heat from the butter to really slowly melt the chocolate rather than agitating it. Because if you're agitating it too early on, there could be like a crystallization that happens, or it just doesn't fully melt.
We'll just let it sit while we whip our eggs and our sugar. So we're going to put eggs and granulated sugar and dark brown sugar. Why dark brown, and why do we want both granulated and brown?
Yes. So dark brown, I'm kind of just in this kick where I only use dark brown sugar for stuff because I like how molasses-y and deep the flavor is.
Me too.
And I think with chocolate especially, it amps it up even more. It bolsters that chocolatey flavor. And I think this is one of the egg and the sugar step is the one that I worked on the most, right? This is where you get all the lift from in the cookie.
Yes, because there's no baking soda.
There's no leavener
powder
in this cookie. So I worked in different ratios. I found that the white sugar helped give me that kind of shine that I wanted even on the top. And the dissolving of that really, really helped that. And then the brown sugar obviously is flavor, but it's also helping with that chew.
Fudginess.
And that fudginess that you're getting from. And there are many steps that you take to get that, right?
Yeah.
But it's like an
elemental
integral part.
step.
Yeah.
Yep. And we're going to add kosher salt. This Times always specifies diamond crystal. This is all going into the bowl of our stand mixer, fitted with our whisk. If we use a hand mixer, we'll do it in a large bowl. Glass if we're on camera.
Glass if you're on camera.
Then we're going to whisk on medium-high speed until the mixture is pillowy and the sugars begin to dissolve, about 3 to 5 minutes. First of all, love the word pillowy. Never described my whipped sugar and eggs as pillowy. Love that. Would you also say ribbony? Is it like you lift the whisk and we get a ribbon? And would you also say lightened in color, or no, because the dark brown sugar impacts that?
It does lighten in color. Ribbony, I would even take it a step further than the ribbon
Because ribbony, it's still a little loose.
Yeah,
right?
It's still loose. It's falling back into itself and dissolving pretty immediately.
Almost whipped cream.
This is kind of getting into that meringue style. Pillowy. I have so much fun thinking of. I mean, I'm on thesaurus.com like all the time.
Yeah.
I have so much fun like thinking of ways to describe like velvety, pillowy. But when you're writing words rather than video, and I think coming from the video side and then now on the written word side, it's really tough to describe things sometimes when you're getting specific with this recipe.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. And I, too, am a thesaurus.com girl.
Of course. I mean, the people who say they're not.
I can't say beautiful again.
No, I know. If I say perfect one more time, I think that I will be like thrown out of the New York Times building.
100%. So we're going to stir our chocolate mixture at this point until it's glossy and smooth. And if there are any solid pieces of chocolate remaining, we can microwave the mixture in 10-second bursts until everything's melted. Then with the mixer on low speed, we're going to add some vanilla. Is there a brand that you love?
You know, I mean, if I'm expensing ingredients, Nielsen Massey.
Yeah.
But I do now, because of Ina, make my own vanilla.
Yeah.
But especially when I'm testing a recipe, I'll always use like a McCormick or something. Just
I
like
actually,
to
you know, Christina Tosi swears by it. I don't
mind it either. Yeah.
With the mixer on low speed, we're going to add the vanilla, then the chocolate mixture, scrape sides and bottom of the bowl to make sure the chocolate is evenly distributed, scrape with a flexible spatula.
Yeah.
Then we're going to add our all-purpose flour. Brand?
I use King Arthur for everything. I like King Arthur flour because I find it to be really consistent.
We're going to mix on a low speed until just a few streaks of flour remain. And to avoid overmixing, we're going to use our spatula to kind of finish folding in the flour by hand. The dough will be glossy. It'll resemble a very thick brownie batter. You say using a 2-tablespoon scoop. We're going to scoop heaping amounts of dough into mounds directly onto our parchment-lined baking sheets, at least 2 inches apart, and will yield about 18 cookies, so like 9 on each. So I had a question about the scoop, and our mutual friend Sam and I just were talking about this. I recently realized that all the scoops I thought were 2 are 1.5.
They're all different.
Is there really a 2?
Every scoop is different. I don't know what it is. I got it from the Williams Sonoma in Chelsea. The scoop that I have is
2?
Is a 2 tablespoon / 1 ounce scoop. So I put water in it, and then I put it into a shot glass. And I was like, this is... And I tried it a few different times because the ones at our kitchen studio were different. And
they're probably
like,
1.5.
The OXO ones are different from the ones you get at like Restaurant Supply. And I don't know why scoops are not consistent across the board. I don't know who to talk to about this, but it is frustrating when
I've been writing recipes for years saying grab your 2 tablespoon scoop, and then I realized, are there any 2? I mean, call Vaughn.
I mean, mine is, I think I had an OXO one, and I think this one now that I have is from Williams Sonoma.
Yeah, because the OXOs are definitely 1.5.
1.5,
Yeah, no, because I'm always saying use your 1.5 tablespoon scoop or measuring spoons and scoop generously, assuming that's going to get me to my 2 tablespoons.
Yeah. That's actually I like that.
Right?
I'm going to go.
And that way it may be a little bit better for people. Just because, whatever. The scoop thing is confusing to me.
Right. I mean, that's why the visual thing is so nice to have, but it's like, yeah.
Or if people weighed, I mean, I write recipes now where I put the gram measurement for the bowls. Because people really like that in a cookbook.
If I'm scooping cookie dough that's easier to scoop than this. This is like actually like a thick brownie batter, so it would be really hard to
like you wouldn't want to scoop it out onto your scale.
Yeah, like it's gonna be almost like a macaron consistency of a macaron batter. A mixture of a batter and a dough.
Okay.
It's a little thicker than a batter, but a little thinner than a dough.
And we want to work quickly when we're scooping to ensure the cookies stay shiny once baked. So speeding up contributes to its shininess.
So
the faster it gets into the oven.
The more that the batter sits out, the duller it's going to bake up.
Because it cools down?
I think because it's cooling down. I think because of the absorption of
flour.
Like, the flour.
Yep.
There is something that just alchemic that happened when I could only bake quarter sheets at a time.
Yeah.
The ones that I bake in the second batch are always less shiny and also like a little less crackly, on top. I think it needs that moisture escaping to like really contribute to that beautiful, craggy top.
So we're going to bake for 8 minutes or until the cookies are starting to spread and take on a shiny outer surface. And then we're going to remove the pans from the oven, whack them on the countertop, a la Sarah Kiefer, a couple of times, and that will actually create that craggly top, the fudgier consistency. I don't like a puffy cookie, so I always press with a spatula, and I learned that in my bakery days many years ago, but I always press post-bake. Did you test whacking after the bake?
Does
it matter when you – I guess my question is, does it matter when you whack?
Well, so this brownie cookie is actually the almost 2.0 version of another cookie that I did for the New York Times, which is the peppermint brownie cookie. And I did the peppermint brownie cookie like that, which was riffing off of that brownie recipe I worked on at BuzzFeed, because Ina has this brownie recipe where you whack it. And like we credited her in the video.
Is it the outrageous brownies? You don't whack those. You know they're brownies that she makes literally in a sheet pan.
I can't. No.
Okay,
it's not
those are
those.
different.
I remember those. There was this other brownie recipe that we saw of hers, like maybe even in a book. And she bangs them and she puts them back in to finish baking. And like almost knocked the air out of it before it could finish baking. And I tried that with the peppermint versions because I also really wanted to add crushed peppermint on top of them. And when I did it before I put them in the oven.
You needed to do it midway.
To have the peppermint hold its shape, but also adhere to the cookie. So I did this, and in the step, it's to like add the salt so that it adheres to the top without
being absorbed. Because I thought that was really smart. Because if you add your flaky sea salt in the beginning, it absorbs. If you add it at the end, it falls off. I thought that was brilliant.
This was the part of the recipe where I was like, okay, so this is the time to add your things. And I'll make them for birthdays. I'll add sprinkles at this point, whatever you're adding on top.
No, that's brilliant. I love that. Now we're going to return it to the oven to finish baking, maybe another 2 minutes. So it's not even, I said midway, it's not midway, until shiny and slightly puffed. We're going to cool for a couple of minutes directly on the baking sheets before transferring to a wire rack to cool completely. Are they good warm or do they sort of fall apart?
They are good warm.
Okay.
They are good warm, but they definitely need time to set. I think they're so tender once that initial heat escapes and then like the osmosis kind of gets it back in there. It needs that time to be able to pick it up. But I have had them warm. Sam Cinnabon and I once actually made them into ice cream sandwiches, and they were really good like that too.
I just want to talk about the variation, which you kind of alluded to. But for the peppermint brownie cookie, we're going to just replace the vanilla extract with the peppermint extract. As you said, we'll replace the sea salt with the crushed peppermint candy. I love that we have the chocolate cookie, then we have the peppermint. But I also wanted to talk about other recipes from the cookie book. I need to talk about the cover girl. First, because it's Sam's cookie, but also I think you tell us in the book that it's Emily Weinstein's favorite cookie.
It is her favorite cookie.
Okay, tell us about the double chocolate chip.
Yeah, the double chocolate chip cookie is so good. We actually just did a video with Sam about it too. Those double chocolate chip cookies that you get from, like, I don't know, I would get them at like a bake sale or something like that. It was always lacking in something. It was always like the chocolate flavor of the actual cookie base wasn't there, or like it was missing the chunk factor. This is so chocolatey on both levels, and it is just indulgent, but also so balanced and nuanced that it's like really perfect. And Sam is so good at doing that. Like she's so good at making her desserts. Yes. And to me, her desserts are like really addictive because of that. It had that quality. It's like, it's not too much. I can keep going back and eating them. And it just is stunning. They're like shiny. Like
Yeah.
even beyond the just melted chocolate that's in them, it's like a shiny, beautiful, mesmerizing
Gorgeous.
cookie to look at.
Was it hard to choose it as the cover, or was that a no-brainer?
I think, well, we were between a few different ones. There's obviously like iconic chocolate chip.
Yep.
I think we were going for something to show folks that there's more to this book than a chocolate chip cookie. Yep. It was like, what is also gonna look good with the word cookies in all different colors.
Yeah, and chocolate is brilliant.
That dark brown really helped the title itself pop, and I think that was also a big factor.
Tell us about, because they're so near and dear to your heart, this was your first recipe you ever developed. Tell us about the eggnog snickerdoodles.
Yes, the eggnog snickerdoodles is like, my sister is like, if you ever sell that recipe, you get royalties off of it, give it to me. But she got this recipe from, I don't know, a magazine in 2004, and it called for, I was like, hey, can you send me the recipe? I kind of want to work with it. And she would send me the recipe. It called for like, and nothing wrong with this, but it was like Crisco and French vanilla coffee creamer and like all these things. And I was like, if I'm going to make this for folks to be able to have access to basic ingredients, I have to rework it a lot.
Yep.
That was like really fun for me because I was able to, again, kind of labor over a recipe and adding like, ooh, I think it needs a little bit more fat. How should I do that? Should I add an extra egg yolk into it? Oh, yeah, that would be cool because this is like hearkening eggnog.
Yes.
And it's like all these things that I was able to really think so critically about. And that's my favorite part of recipe developing is like thinking critically about what this is good, but what could make it better.
Yeah.
And also the use of rum extract in it is a little bit of a hack that really does make it taste like eggnog once it's baked up.
I love.
They're also like a 45-minute cookie.
Yeah.
There's nutmeg in the sugar that you roll on the outside.
Brilliant. So it's going to be even brighter than if it was baked into the cookie.
And it makes your house smell fantastic. Yes.
Tell us about your salted margarita cookies, which are also in the book.
We needed some like bright citrusy things, and you only have so many citrus cookies that you could do. And so this one was so fun because I love key lime pie. Love it. It's like one of my favorite things in the entire world. And adding booze to it and salt to it was kind of like hello. Like my two favorite things in the world, salt and tequila.
Yeah. So it is almost like a key lime curd.
So it basically is like a key lime curd, but with tequila and Cointreau in it.
Amazing.
And because that is in there, I actually found that freezing them once they're baked is the way to do it because the alcohol keeps it from getting icy.
Yeah.
And the crust is actually crushed saltines.
So do we eat them frozen? Or you just like to freeze them to set them and then you can eat them?
You can transfer them back to the fridge, but I just keep mine in the freezer because honestly, like they are so refreshing in a hot
And you also said
day.
You could bring them to a potluck. You could bring them to the beach.
And I think if you have them frozen and then you're transferring them in a cooler bag, they will eat better by the time
they will be
there.
perfect.
Yeah.
And then finally, I just wanted to end with Eric's gochujang caramel cookies.
Yes. Oh, I mean, this is the cookie that launched 1,000 covers.
Yeah.
Like it is our icon supermodel cookie. I don't think that any of us necessarily knew when he was talking about it that it was going to be as big as it was. But then when he made it and we tried it on set, we were like, this is genius. It is so mesmerizing to look at. You have a streak of bright red gochujang like going throughout the middle of it.
Is it in the caramel?
It is in,
gochujang?
yeah, and it's not even like you're making like a boiled sugar caramel. You're basically doing brown sugar and butter and then adding gochujang to it. And that's the swirl that's in it. So they're not only so nuanced and complex, they're also like quite easy to make, which I think is why they took off so much because people see the recipe and they're like, the gochujang caramel, like this seems so complicated. I would never be able to do it. But then they look at like 30 minutes and then they look at all these comments that are like the best, easiest cookie ever. And they just take off. And it brings something. I think that's another one of those cases where it's like, Eric is so good at this too. Not giving people what they want, but giving people what they don't know they want yet.
Love.
You know?
Love.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, Vaughn. And I just want to say that you are my cherry pie.
Oh, stop it. And you're mine. Should we sing the song?
Yes,
now? I guess
exactly.
copyright, we're probably not allowed to. But, thank you so much. This was fantastic. And I literally we could talk shop all day.
Oh, my God. Hours.
Hours.
That's it for today's show. Thank you to Diamond of California Nuts for supporting our show. You can find today's recipe at cherrybomb.substack.com. Don't forget to follow She's My Cherry Pie on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and tell your pals about us. She's My Cherry Pie is a production of the Cherry Bomb Podcast Network. Our producers are Carrie Diamond, Catherine Baker, and Jenna Sadu. Thank you so much for listening to She's My Cherry Pie, and happy baking!